Good morning, LinkedIn. Uh, Welcome to Let's Build Daily. I'm your host, Chris Carolin. We are celebrating the third annual HubSpot Academy World Certification Week. We got a super special guest today, Christopher Nault from Growth. How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. Is it only the third year they've been doing this?
In talking with Adam yesterday, I felt like it's been around a while because he definitely referenced it in previous times, but on the website it says third annual. So maybe we've only been using this hashtag.
I mean, it makes me feel good. I've been here for all of them then. It's great.
Right.
We're like at Growth, I think I don't want to say this wrong, but I think our total certifications for the whole team is 150. And I think the goal is to get to 200 this week. So I'm going to crack open my Slack and see some of the ones that have been completed in the last day or two. Brag in public.
Right. There you go, man. I mean, that's why I love what we're going to be talking about today, because we met with Jorge on Monday, who's, newer to the ecosystem and just like blasted out, actually right after our show, he posted his 45th HubSpot certification. He's just a beast and a great example of an individual, contributor just soaking up knowledge because he knows it's going to help him. Yesterday, talking to Adam and his journey from end user all the way to now he's teaching, boot camps, man.
Wow.
So he dove in his way, and he's Media Junction. And now when we first met, I remember you talking about how as you've looked to scale growth and handle your own growth, you talked about how not only vetting, new team members, asking them to do some certs as a part of the process sometimes, but also this ongoing thing. And you just kind of alluded to it. Your team has 150, and you got a Slack channel where people are throwing stuff in. Hey, I got this done. And I want you to kind of take me through that culture that you've created, as a leader, where it's like, hey, on one side of this, everybody's expected to do this, right, as a part of their, existence here. But, when you do it, you're going to have a little team behind you cheering you on. And, just if you can kind of just dig in wherever it makes sense to start, man.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. When we first started as a HubSpot partner, we knew we did a lot more marketing at that time, and we knew a lot of things. We were much smaller. I think a seventh of the size we are now. Me, Will, Katrina, and then there's some previous employees. To me, the investment that HubSpot's made into this academy is so powerful and such an untapped resource for most of our clients, and I'm thrilled the HubSpot partners leverage it. It provides, I think, the most basic, underrated component is shared language. If everyone's talking about the same thing the same way, it prevents so many train wrecks farther down the line. So, obscure win, shared language. They've done a really good job of updating the content in these as well. So it's, you can take a certification in some places and then it's basically obsolete 6 to 12 months later, whereas the HubSpot Academy, and one of the things I love about Certification Week is they reinvest in the material. That's super powerful. As a team, we've aligned so closely with HubSpot that becoming a part of the ecosystem is kind of is at this point a must for any new employees. Our last 3 or 4 hires, everyone had previously earned 10 plus certifications, and it's part of the interview process. Since we hire senior HubSpot implementation specialist, we need a cooler name for it, I know.
It's all about clarity, man.
certifications. It's like, are you even real?
Right.
Because I think in order to be at a senior level implementing complex systems for companies, this is table stakes, as a lot of HubSpotters say.
Yeah, I agree.
Plus it's free and they're not that hard. They're a couple hours. They're just like a nice packaged pieces of information.
Right. And I think there's can you speak to how, because I know a lot of leaders I've talked to and experienced myself, like they're challenged with, let's just say, not having great training programs, because a lot usually does go into it, but I think there's a ton of value, like you said, untapped, in just kind of accepting you know some of the structure provided by the academy itself. I mean, it's walking you through the whole, like any piece of the customer experience is there to be trained on.
And we haven't touched on the playlist function yet. And I don't know if this is available to anybody but partners, but I'm a huge fan. Being able to, it's not only the certification, it's also the lessons and things.
Yeah. Leah says, what up, gents? Good morning, Leah. Yeah, we're actually, the second half of this episode, we're going to build one, your top 5 list.
Cool. I can do that.
In a playlist. But yeah, that's a good point. It's just making it easier and easier for people to, because I think the challenge I've been talking about is, depending on how deep you are into the Orange ecosystem, if you're not so deep, just getting thrown into the academy and say, hey, take this and that, and we'll tell you how it impacts your job, later, or we just hope you get it, doesn't usually go well. So playlists have been a definitely beneficial, tool that they've added recently to make it easier and easier to contextualize this stuff for people. Sounds like you got some, built out already.
Well, so I deal mostly, like right now, the focus for growth is expanding our sales team. So I've been using, I've just last week I created 2 new playlists, and one is like a go-to-market lessons to help you sell better. And so this is for people that I've met with that have really strong sales skills, but maybe haven't worked in this kind of, you're not going to a trade show and shaking hands for lead gen, not flying you all over the country. You're going to be hanging out at a desk and selling, kind of like software sales. So this is like a nice intro one to see how serious they are. And then I have a sales team certification training, each with custom covers on them. So they're very hip looking and on brand.
That'll be on brand, man.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice hack of being able to upload that.
Yeah. So what do you think it will take? Did you find any in that Slack channel?
I did. So let's see. I'll give, like, if anybody from my team is watching this. So Jesse had a 140 yesterday. Got a 73 out of 60 on the HubSpot Marketing Certified. What's up, Max?
73 out of 60. What's going on, Max?
It's real confirmation. And so there's some shared accolades there. Katrina, shout out, RevOps Certified yesterday at 11:58. Gunnar Normand, not on LinkedIn. Such a cool, I don't know if he's a millennial or Gen Z. I think he's on the cusp, but he got digital marketing certified. He's our lead developer. The certifications also are a fun way, in the right environment to stretch your legs a little bit. I was surprised to see him share, but he also shared his favorite question. Question 6 of 60. Put you on the spot. True or false? When writing, you should try and use extensive vocabulary in your writing. Okay, so
I'm gonna go false.
Extensive vocabulary makes you appear less credible and confident. found that hilarious, and referenced Tim Cook from Apple saying that you should present at a 7th grade level, which I love.
Yeah.
Way more my speed.
So he's a developer, you said?
Yeah.
Getting
CMS developer.
Getting the digital marketing cert, which is really expansive.
I was surprised. Yeah, good for him. I love that he's dabbling, man. Again, it's what a unique way to be able to share things. So one of our newest team members is Richard Walsh, and so he's a former HubSpot partner. He just started this week, and he's like a hardcore HubSpotter. I love him. So he drops Monday CRM data migration, data integration, CMS implementation, guided client onboarding, platform consulting, contextual marketing, client management, delivered client success. So that dude had a wild weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's like one of my favorite parts that I've only recently experienced, and is that, like, these all have expiration dates, right? Because the content does change, the content does get updated. Even we need refreshers, as human beings. But being able to just kind of retake the exam, and kind of reset that certification, if it hasn't changed a whole lot, is really easy to do. And it's just like was one of the best refreshers for me, because that's like, there's some knocks that I've heard about, like, how intense or not intense, these certifications are. But I always remember my first impressions of being a little annoyed by how difficult some of the questions were. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a walk in the park. And often I would, especially for users that were outside of the system and just coming in, I'd have to sit down with them, because a lot of these topics are so nuanced. The language can be so similar. And there's like, they focus on good questions to round out these certifications.
Just so much like pro HubSpot talk, they're great, but they also are very like, don't strive for perfection. They iterate and improve on things and make mistakes, and it's okay. Like, honestly, that's a healthy habit to have.
Right.
Kind of a toxic habit when companies refuse to operate like that. So I remember, like, maybe it was the RevOps cert or one of the recent ones. I just happened to have the time, so I started blowing through it, and then noticed there were just like some functions that were broken. And it's like, okay, no problem. Boom, the next day it was fixed. Very even keel. So I think it's like a nice, if you see something, say something. Just let them know.
Yeah, and that's like another spot where they're definitely listening and open to feedback, and messaging people on LinkedIn saying, hey, here's a screenshot, you might want to fix this thing, and then it gets updated. It's going to take me a while to get over how me, as a smaller guy, agency consultant, can actually impact things at like a $1 billion company, like HubSpot.
I mean, not a lot of people are willing to share their experience or communicate at all or care enough to do either of those things. So I feel just like you. We're still the little guy, we feel like, anyway, and it's nice. It's like if you're in a place of kindred spirits. We care. We're going to make an impact. We're going to be honest. If a mistake's made, we're just going to own up to it and keep it moving and grow from it. Again, it's a very special ecosystem that I have not seen even closely replicated in any of the other software universes that we play in.
Right. And that's like, I kind of pride myself on being able to see these, let's call them green flags in the case of HubSpot ecosystem.
Very Gen Z of you.
Right. And like, just the fact, like, I always take it back to the fact that the way I became a customer was through this free academy, and they just, continue to build the free, resources, because they know that if our customers are successful, then we're going to be successful as a company. And just like, if you can trust that and understand that the whole ecosystem operates that way, like it puts a lot of the other, BS to bed as far as what you have to worry about when you're working inside of this ecosystem, and just this
I
helpful
think it's
nature.
Yeah, man. I think that was one of HubSpot's secret marketing weapons was getting information to the brand new marketers and sales teams, and then the new agency owners. And the academy is like a very secret backdoor. I'm on the advisory board for Full Sail University in Orlando. It's like a really cool multimedia college, maybe the largest in the country. But it's just outside of our downtown Orlando office. And a year and a half ago, I traveled there to talk. I'm specifically on the advisory board for their Masters of Marketing program. And as we went through our annual meeting and talking about ways they can improve the program, I brought up HubSpot certifications. And they said, like, oh, we do mention them throughout the courses. Now, it was this year, they've been requiring that students choose which ones they want, but that they do them. And a lot of really positive feedback. It was really cool to see something enacted so quickly. But I think there's a lot of, I would be curious, like what the data stats are on how many HubSpot certifications are done by non-account holders just across the country or world. It's just, again, a really great tool. And so for college professors and deans of schools to look at this thing and be like, wow, they really put the work into this. It's nice. And the first academy lessons were not at the caliber that they are now, and that's okay. They got better. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and that's like you mentioned before, this start the bias towards action, basically, and just being mindful of where those expectations. I'm doing this with a lot of AI talk right now. Like you got to start somewhere, and not all the outcomes are going to be great, but what they have proven is their commitment, very obviously, to the product iteration, but even at the academy level, their commitment to updating the content. Because it's so easy for a lot of us to say that and just say we need to get it out there right now and we will come back to it, right? And we don't. HubSpot does, and they've continued. I mean, this academy started with 4 or 5 courses or something, and yeah, back then when they were just a marketing automation, software, there was not sales management courses. There was not, critical thinking courses, right? It was very focused on what they knew. And as they've grown into the full, go-to-market and customer experience, they focused on what their customers needed, the challenges we were running into. And when I found stuff like inbound marketing optimization, and the first 3 lessons are, how to be a good teammate, how to do interpersonal communications, how to do project management. It's like, yeah, that's all the stuff that I'm struggling with as a HubSpot champion, inside the organization right now.
That's pretty cool. I feel terrible in having never come across those, but I think that it makes a lot of sense, especially for what I know with you and just more technical folks.
Well, it's because it's called inbound marketing optimization. When I found it, but that's right. So that's how and that's what we're doing with this show, and that's how I like to operate inside of HubSpot. Just this, if you can give yourself the permission to explore a little bit, like even in the academy, this happens. You're like, oh, this one sounds cool. I mean, I'd like to optimize some inbound marketing. Let me check this out. And then it's like, how to be a good collaborator. I was like, okay, this is great. But stuff like that happens. And I'm going to break down, because I don't have a guest tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to break down the 2 that I've just stumbled upon, which are, that one. And there's a critical thinking course that is like, I was joining a new company in 2022, and it was like, man, you enter this high growth environment where everybody is just, they don't have time to think, right? They're just covered up in revenue. You're trying to figure out how you can impact and like, start to help with these processes and systems. But a lot of that requires everybody to just take a step back and think about stuff for a second. And I remember sharing that with a couple people, and it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things that were like, where else is this being taught, right? Like I've run into a couple things like that with HubSpot, and you mentioned the college stuff. When I was last in a position for hiring, one of the people that was coming out with a marketing degree in her last semester, a part of the syllabus was the content marketing certification that they went through, which good to see that HubSpot is respected in that way. I personally might not want to spend university credits dollars if that's going to be the syllabus, but that's a different conversation. And just speaks to the value of what's inside this academy. So
yeah, man, they did good.
I'd like to build one of these playlists with you, because I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I know you can handle it.
I can. The first one I want to find is a Dan Tyer classic, and he's talking about hybrid selling or something. I'm looking for it, but we'll follow your track and see if I can find it while we're chatting. I thought I had it on my
share.
Today's empowered buyer. Let's see if this is it.
Tell you what, nothing makes you more flexible than trying to do everyday stuff from the road. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
And let me make sure. Yep, we're good. Okay. So we are going to build a playlist with Chris from Growth. We got Adam Stahl's top 5 here, Jorge's top 5. There we go.
I'll send you a custom cover too.
I don't know if I can handle that, man. All right.
I must find this one. It's very good. It's the first one is Dan Tyer talking about today's hybrid selling.
All right. Well, let's just see if we can search it up that way. If you know which one he's talking about in the chat,
I'll find it. Let's do some classic searches. So I think this is really good. For right now, I'm helping a lot of teams modernize their sales team. So let's go into like the general sales search. Let's find some here.
All right. And we're focused on certs, so I'm gonna just filter out certificate courses.
So the inbound sales one you haven't taken is really good. So this is for people that have found you, and it's a different, like contextually speaking. So like we do a lot of ABM. We recommend this one for the sales teams that we're generating opportunities for, because in some instances, especially with manufacturing companies, they're like less aware of this type of engagement, and they make it feel very transactory in the beginning if they don't take this certification.
Right. So let's look. So how is as you help, your clients, have they been, in overall receptive? Like, are those sales teams taking these courses?
No, they're not. That's a good question. I will say that user adoption is one of the hardest parts about anything thing that requires anybody to do a thing. I didn't pick the humans that worked there. And I'm very thankful I spend very little of my personal time now trying to get people to adopt healthy best practices. It's very tough. It's very tough. Nonprofits, their marketing teams seem to be very participatory. Companies that are experiencing change that they maybe didn't want tend to learn, but like just casually growing.
Right. And this is where like obviously the leadership, like it always points there, in my opinion, and that's why that situation where you have this open Slack channel where people can just share wins. Not only can they be acknowledged, for their effort, it shows others, it shows everybody in the organization that it's a good thing to do this. Nobody's going to get mad at you for wasting time, quote unquote, like on certifications, because you're not wasting time. Now, obviously, if you do nothing but do certifications and you don't hit your goals, and whatever you're supposed to be doing for your job, then it's not great. But in most cases, I've run into with a lot of this stuff, like, training and even LinkedIn engagement, it's unless a leader says explicitly, I want you and need you to be doing this, people will think that if they are seen doing this, then other people on the team will think, this person's wasting this time doing this other stuff. So it's super important.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to build in growth plans for people. So like we name that from the interview, and then when people join and we we use Asana to time track. So then we're looking at how people are using their time, and we want to see that they've allocated energy into growing. It's important. The last thing we want anybody to do at growth is be stagnant. That would be very counterintuitive.
Yes, that would be. So just checking out a couple of the sections here in inbound sales. We've got some fundamentals. And so key to all of this, I mean, strategy, like there's a strategy behind all of this, and it's not just something you can turn on like, okay, we don't have to do any prospecting, we're not calling people, we're not emailing people, just everything's all of a sudden going to come inbound because that's how we feel we want to do things now. Like, no.
A lot of work. ABM is helpful. We just did a webinar yesterday on ABM, and then you have to juxtaposition and specifically state that ABM is not a replacement for inbound marketing. They are absolutely both required if a company wants to grow in 2024. And I also have to say the caveat that like my voice and my keyhole perspective of the universe is, $25 million B2B companies and up. So my recommendations don't work for Joe's Pizza Shop or, whatever, Red Bull.
Right. Yep. And right. So it is a strategic, that there's strategy behind all this. And again, the way these are just chunked up and, very explicit sections.
That one's important. The prioritizing active buyers over passive buyers with inbound leads, juxtapositioning ABM. Typically, and again, my narrative is this certain segment. The person that comes across your website and fills out a form may not be the buyer. They may and likely are researching on behalf of someone with less time to do the data mining. They may be very fresh in the shoots and ladders game of even figuring out what the heck it is that you do and whether or not they need it. So very quickly when we first connect, if someone finds growth, goes to our website, books a meeting, talks to Will, in 15 minutes, Will's first job is like being a great human, because that's who he is first. And then it's like a low-key BANT assessment. Who are you? Where are you in the process? Do you have a budget? Do you specifically know what pain point you have so we can help solve it? And like, who are you? Checking down their job title, using Apollo.io. doing a little research and being like, oh, so you work for Jim? You know Jim? They're like, no, but I found him through our data enrichment tool.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm in a the only kind of brags I can do basically are just like the private betas that I'm in. So I'll always drop them.
Hard
but
flex.
Like this meeting, the meetings like or the meetings tools and the prospecting tools, they're just putting a ton of positive energy into that right now. And I used it yesterday, and they're working on the concept of there being just a prepare button next to your meeting that just pulls up all this great juicy summary information, sometimes pulling from external sources at the same time. And
Clearbit finally being useful. I like that.
Yeah, we're getting there.
That's cool.
But again, all of these should be seen as like additive, right? It doesn't replace that. It doesn't replace Will's process of, hey, I need to figure out who this person is, and if we can actually help them.
Yeah.
Right. So lots of good stuff in here that we could, this course is 3 hours for a reason. We will not dig deeper. So let me go back here and let's find our number 2. Sticking with the sales theme. All right.
I thought sales management is a really good one too.
Agreed. And
contextual, it's a major contextual change, managing people versus doing the selling, or being someone like myself building a sales team that now needs more management. So Will and I have both played in that one recently.
I mean, how good are these? How good is the copywriting here? Like whoever's writing this copy is so good. Like most sales managers are former salespeople who have been promoted. They know how to sell, but often don't know how to lead a team. Like 98% of use cases in the real world are this. And again, those people do not usually get, sales management training. And
100%.
This is, if you're a leader, this is why I'm starting to, challenge the concept that leaders don't need to know HubSpot inside and out, right? Especially the primary leader, because I see that if one of their responsibilities is resourcing the organization for growth, and they're not seeing HubSpot as one of the most valuable tools at their disposal to do that, like, of course they're not going to get the ROI, and they're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And this is one of those things where, maybe you do need some ongoing training, for your sales managers, maybe some deeper dive coaching, like all this, right, goes into it. But if you don't know where to start, this is a free place to start, right? Whether you have HubSpot or not, but especially if you do, and it's just, sitting here for you, right? So take advantage of it.
I think there's a new world order that has kind of transpired in the last 5 years, and is growing in a good way. There's the kind of like the my dads and older, like maybe a little younger type, like the previous generation of workers that felt like you had to really silo yourself and like you were at odds with your coworkers, and if you wanted to stay one place forever type sort of thing, you just had to like dig your feet in and kind of just keep your mouth shut and be not seen. To today's market where, we empower knowledge and growth and those sorts of things. And it's the inverse. So I have the hardest time communicating a positive mindset, positive attitude and growth mindset to basically the previous generation. And when I enter those types of virtual meetings where they're just bringing like boomer energy, it is very weird feeling being like, yeah, man, positive attitude, growth mindset. Let's find those resources. Let's solve this problem. They're like, whoa.
What's your angle, bro?
Can you schedule a meeting about the meeting? And I'm like, Cheryl, I will not be attending the meeting before the meeting.
What's this guy's angle? What is he really about? This can't be real.
Yeah. And then what do I say? Go on LinkedIn. I'm just literally like this.
Right. Oh man, that's like, just a quick side tangent, and why they should all be using LinkedIn themselves. Like, there's no like, you quickly see like, there's no angle here. Chris from Growth is Chris from Growth. He's over here, over there. On this
if anything, there's an opposite angle. It's like, I really should tighten this up a little bit. But
right. Maybe I should have an angle. Right. Speaking of angles, let's go to number 3 here. Still on the sales. And this is where it's like, you can focus, you can spread out. The key is just understanding, like taking a trip through like what's possible here with keywords. We've got different languages here too. They've done a ton of expansion when it comes to Spanish speaking courses. But we've got duration, content types. This is interesting.
Talk about the resources that they provide in a bunch of the Academy courses either. That's inspired us, at Growth, the way that we do webinars, and we are nowhere near where these guys are at. But again, HubSpot wasn't like this day one either. So positive attitude, growth mindset 101. But it's not just like them spewing information for 30 minutes. And yes, there's a test at the end. But for full transparency, if anybody is watching this that's a HubSpot partner, the foundational documentation for growth and our transition to be a HubSpot partner, let's say 90% of it came from HubSpot Academy courses and their resources. And I mean this, I completely restructured growth in 2020, both not only like the services we were doing, but how we implemented services. And the HubSpot provided the foundation. So,
right.
Yes. That's true.
I mean, well, that's what I love about this space, and why that mindset that you mentioned previously is so challenging. It's like HubSpot's a pretty successful company. And if they think they figured it out and now are teaching people how to do it, maybe we can just take that template and make it out. We don't have to start from scratch. Like, why are we starting from scratch if we've seen all these people be successful with this, right? That's the beauty of digital, in my opinion, is that so much of this stuff is super templatable. It allows you to spend the time, like if you accept the fact that you don't have to do that part, that tactical piece is done already. You can and should take the time to add the strategy element of how it applies to you and your goals and the goals of your business, right? So these resources, this is where, like, if we could help people understand the true wealth of resources here without the overwhelm, which can happen, especially in HubSpot land. There's just so much available, which is why that internal HubSpot champion is important to contextualize this stuff. But it's all here, and you don't have to do a lot of the work that you might think. Like, there are a lot of organizations in a situation where they've been growing like gangbusters and they have no training plan, and they're hiring new roles. And when you talk to them about, okay, what's the plan for the training plan? It's like deer in headlights. And it's something we don't want to think about, because if you didn't have resources like this, it would be a hell of a lot of work, including hiring full-time people, to do that for you, which probably is still needed. But again, like, all the resources available to you are here. And at the end of the day, like, and feel free to reach out to me or Chris if you need some guidance on which ones to start with. But if you can start with something like these, are like these videos don't go past 15 minutes, right? Usually. And and these resources, right? They might take 5 to 10 minutes to review. So that's definitely a good
And
highlight.
they've got good engaging videos. They're well thought out. They're like, it's edited correctly. They reshoot segments. I mean, it's again,
Right. The
really,
value
really
of getting
great in real
started
time.
early and committing to this as a resource for their
Plus Kyle
business.
Jepsen, come on,
Right.
who doesn't enjoy seeing that guy?
Oh man.
Did you see the video he posted like a week or two ago when they announced Content Hub and he was demoing it while his baby was climbing the stairs?
Yeah.
I'm not even like a cute baby type of guy.
Right.
But I lost it. I had to show Katrina, shared it in Slack with everybody. So
Yeah.
when the time is right for me to have a child, I'm going to be putting him on the spot.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. All right. Are we sticking with sales for number 3?
Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's say, is there something around mindset?
Let's see.
I mean, the RevOps Bootcamp is a good one for partners that are like trying to move up market. I think that is
I like that one.
a good one.
Yeah.
Mary, I believe, is the one that put that together.
Yeah. And these two together, like, so I've seen a couple people this week, revenue operations. We were talking about it yesterday. To your point of common language, it goes both ways to the, it's easy to think of like, all right, everybody, HubSpot's awesome. Get in here. We're going to start talking about, deals and pipelines and sales velocity, and everybody needs to know what this means. Meanwhile, like CFOs are like, how about you understand like what a profit loss sheet looks like, and then talk to me. And you can, right? You can understand, like, it's not obviously a full-blown course, but in this in the revenue operations course, right, you can get that understanding and start to speak their language and start to show that it's not just you trying to get everybody on the HubSpot bandwagon. It's like, hey, we're all in this together, as an organization.
Again, there's definitely some generational friction in a lot of cases.
Right.
I don't come across it as much with you 40 and under types, but definitely in that 50 to 55 bracket.
Yep. All right, let's round it out with a 4 and 5 here. I didn't see mindset, but maybe there's growth. Social media community-led growth. That is one I haven't seen before.
Oh, we should have had the developing a growth marketing mentality. What?
There we go.
I didn't even see that one before. It's just a lesson, but I'm disappointed I wasn't asked to speak about it.
Right. So, and that's the thing. Like we've been focused on certs this week, but there's just so many lessons. Right. I wonder which. I've taken it, so it must be in one of the certs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one.
But I think it's a great phrase, and if I had to make an assumption, it's the reality that when you're trying to do a thing, specifically with marketing, you only control your input, and the output in the universe will react to it. So having the ability to pivot often and frequently, and having connected to data sets and doing A/B testing is critical, and is a very healthy habit to have in life.
I agree. Let's say like growth marketing. See if we can backdoor the certification. Maybe it's in the growth driven design. That would make sense.
Essentially.
So
I think that, like the growth driven design is good, maybe not for salespeople, but it does. And this is a difficult process to walk people through when we're talking about building websites for companies. The act of creating growth driven design is very difficult for people. having an MVP website product and expanding on it. Again, same idea. By doing that, you get a newer website faster. It probably is already going to do more than what it's doing now. And you have a roadmap in place to expand on it.
Yes. And this is like, again, and this is in large part, I'll say, like, there was a period of time where you could not do it this way. Website projects did have to be longer. They did have to cost a lot of money. They did require a lot of development people. And we just don't live in that world anymore. And the tools afforded to you, not only in HubSpot, but there's so many, drag and drop builders that you can plug in. I'm a big HubSpot CMS now, Content Hub fan myself. But the tools are there. So this concept of being able to start, do you think that's where some of the hesitation is? Like, if we get to it too soon, it's not going to have, everything
perfection paralysis is like,
right.
My mission is to get rid of it, because there's so much value in just trying and taking the leap and making the adjustment.
Right. But what we don't do is start creating pages like first. And that's where I guess it's kind of it's an interesting conversation that I'm still learning how to have, with people, because on the flip side, everybody's hesitant to spend too much time developing the strategy and the plan, right? And it's like, well, if we get this part done first, the rest of the stuff goes a lot faster, right?
That's yes. I think most programs deserve a few like collaborative workshops to define those elements.
Yes. All right.
Again, work culture plays a big impact on whether or not people are willing to do that.
Right. And that's where a lot of orgs, like, and again, this is another interesting piece to me, like, how many orgs that we work with have quality programs for production stuff and production process that are forced on them and have existed for a long time. So they've got continuous improvement like on their minds when it comes to product data and product manufacturing, but not having that on the front office, sales, marketing, customer side of things, right? If you don't, this is a fact. Like, if you're not willing to do this piece, then you really can't invest in growth-driven design, because this is what it's all about. It's about getting started, getting some of the ducks in a row, getting them up, and then being iterative with your improvement process, because it's not a one and done project.
Yeah.
Customers are always advancing forward, and you need to advance forward, with them.
Again, all these agencies that would charge like website maintenance fees, if they would just change that fee to like install Hotjar or whatever, and then each month say, hey, we have 3 recommendations and we make these changes, we're going to put X amount of hours into I would think that would be a really easy way to switch the narrative of just charging a non-required maintenance fee.
Right. Well, no, I think that's a good idea.
Agencies off with that, but
all right, we got one more, man. How are we rounding it out?
These certifications are tough because they do not have all the fun that come with the lessons. But if I had to say that I needed one more, not in sales, we're going to go with customer service. And let's see. I think not sales service. Let's just go with, for a lot of the service teams. Yeah, I think just a good roundabout with Service Hub, especially for companies that are already using a software that they've had for years. Mine's part of the Service Hub software.
Yeah, and there is, and let me just make sure. Got it here. And there is And again, this is one that's, I'm sure, being updated by the minute as HubSpot kind of reintroduces Service Hub to the eyes of a new shiny help desk. Right. But this is like, even though it's a software cert, like you can't know how to use the software without, the fundamentals and structure behind it. Right.
100%.
So we look at understanding help desk, why use it? That's a very good question that you need to understand before you just throw a tool at the problem. So that's a good call out. I'm loving, we're getting some varied playlists this week.
Well, I mean, I love how you already have every certification. Is there any certification you do not have? What's on your must-do list?
Let's see here. Thank you for asking.
Like, are you getting a certification this week?
Yes. Because there's some of those ones, like since I've been in, like, I did 4 different implementations internally, all different email addresses. There's some that I've done in the past that don't necessarily show up. And that didn't save. So we're going to find it again and add it. So we got Chris's top 5. So yeah, I've got some stuff.
All right, you got a little gap in there.
Yep. Contextual mark. See, this is like one of my favorite ones, and I've definitely done it several times. It just has not did not make it through the last job exchange.
It's good that you worked at a place that gave you the bandwidth before your entrepreneurship move.
Right.
Give you the bandwidth to do this.
Yeah, we'll say it's that, and not just my perseverance.
Quest for knowledge.
Yeah. So HubSpot reporting, I could definitely use some brush up there. Digital ad stuff is always like, one of the last ones I'm going to look to do, just because I think so many companies, especially, the companies we're used to working with, that they've always done that, and all of the foundation you need to make stuff like that work. There's just so much work to be done there. Let's see. So probably this inbound marketing optimization one that I can refresh. But if you haven't seen this, and I thought about just doing the exam, live tomorrow.
Just hot off the top.
Right. Well, no, I definitely want
where you're at.
I'll refresh it, but I mean, that would be interesting. But it's just such a this is where there's got to be a better name for this. Like, honestly, like, yes, doing these things will help with this, but like, look at this. It's like interpersonal communication for marketers, how to be an effective collaborator, managing marketing projects effectively.
Well, that's what I think. If you were to go about this in a different way, where instead of looking straight at the certs, you look through the lessons. The lessons are like the gatekeeper to being like, maybe I will take the whole certification. I'll take this 20-minute lesson on growth mindset. And then it's like, okay, well, I can see how it ties into this. And then it ties into this.
Yeah. But look at this spread. Like, and this is one of those courses that I've said, and it's hard. This is where, like, help me out a little bit, HubSpot. Like, if I want to give this to a leader, they're like, this seems like a super specific topic that I should not spend time on. But if you go through it, it's like, okay, we go, being an effective, part of the team, basically. Then analytics, what do we look like? How do we know if we're winning or losing? Conversational marketing, creating engagement instead of just, looking for the leads list. What's happening after we do that? How are we engaging our customers? We know a lot of customers love us. Are we helping them tell other people that they love us? Are we learning from them? Understanding those insights. And then website user experience for marketers. That's why I loved, like, when you started with a developer that just took digital marketing, there's so much of this where even if you're a role player, the more you know about what's possible with HubSpot and how this is all connected together, you will get much more effective at your job, like real quickly, and you'll be a much more effective team member at that. So
I wonder if website UX for marketers is what got Gunner into then taking a digital marketing cert. I'll have to ask.
yeah. Oh man. And see, then they just like drop this one in at the end, right? Fundamentals of information architecture. like, and there's a whole course about that basically. But again, and I think this is the challenge, that we're all we're wrestling with in a good way. Like, this is what customer platform evolution looks like. We're going from Marketing Hub to sales, service, and now it's everything. But when you can do that as an organization, you put your team in a much better position to serve the customers in a way that they want to be served.
Yeah.
So
it almost seems obvious. But again, boomer mentality, it's like, I don't know. I want to stay away from this friendly face. It's probably like I don't know what
they're trying to sell me something.
Exactly.
Like, no, they're just trying to help you out, man, because they know you'll buy something if you get help.
Because you need it.
This has been awesome, man. I appreciate you taking some time.
A pleasure. Are you hitting the trade floor in Vegas today?
Yeah, we got yesterday was the first full day of ISRI, Institution of Scrap Recyclers.
Awesome.
It's a big show. Big giant machines, on the floor, but also, just really good people, right? They've done a great job. Like I remember back in 2019, they started supporting, everybody getting more engaged on LinkedIn. And you're like, it's one of those things like, maybe because I was selling stuff and I have to go show up at a scrapyard and like show somebody how this laser gun works. And it's like, yeah, maybe this guy is not going to be on LinkedIn. I can see that, right? There's nothing about this immediate space that requires LinkedIn. But they are one of the most active, industrial communities on the platform. And it just took a couple of, kind of growth-minded people to really start that charge. But also this organization created the learning, created the training to train their members on why, it's valuable for your business. And there was it felt like, since I was in it and I was connected with all these people, I was like, okay, they just had a training or some sort, because now all these company pages for scrap yards are posting stuff, right? And
that's great.
It was just, it shows. And now, like, you got 5 podcasts being recorded on the show floor over 2 days, like scrap metal podcasts, right? So like all this stuff is like,
it's an interesting space,
right? Well, we're all human beings and we all like videos. We all like, to interact with each other. I continue to learn that there is no replacement for, the in-person interaction and engagement that you can get at an event like this. The key is just, man, this is whole nother episode, but just like moving around, like something that came to me yesterday is like, unless the days of like hoping that you can get somebody to stop at your booth if they don't know you already, like you have to be doing something quite outrageous to get the attention of somebody when all this stuff is going on. But if you do the work before and after the show digitally, right, how the show investment is just that much better for it. So
now, we did a micro lesson with Apollo, I think 3 weeks ago, specifically on that. It's true. It matters. And then you show up feeling like it's, for me, I have been told I have an outgoing demeanor, but going to things, including inbound, I do not like. It is very hard. So I much prefer to have been walking into a room with people that I now know than a bunch of strangers. I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to pass. Since I don't know anybody, nobody will know if I'm not here. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. And I'll end on this example because it just came to mind. There's a guy named Adam Shine who is known in the space. He's big in New York area for scrap metal, and he comes by the booth, and the XRF company, which is where I'm at helping a client out. They do buying and reselling of, they basically try to own the secondary market for these specific equipment. And he comes by and he's like, man, I've been hearing about you guys more and more. I feel like I'm getting a ton of emails about this. And here, like the way he let in, and this is where you can't judge books by their covers. I'm like, he's about to get pissed off about how many emails he's getting, right? And instead, he's like, he starts to tell us his point of view on the information he's getting, and then says, hey, I got some stuff, just lying on the shelf. I'm wondering if I can get value for it, right? So no matter how, like, he probably got, maybe 20 emails, over the past year. And now he shows up at the booth. He didn't interact with any of the emails, right? Not in the various ways you might, he didn't click, right? But he's staying around. And then now you get to the show, like that's where he wants to access you, right?
Yeah.
And since you're there, since you've done the work over here, you will do the work after, because it's a very nice e-commerce site, right? That's like, hey, this is how you go do the thing you told me you wanted to do, right? You round out the thing, and it just, all this stuff works together, and none of it's a replacement for the other.
Hopefully the marketing department's able to attribute their work into him becoming a client. So that way it's not lost on executives that the value of what they're doing works, and it wasn't a trade show lead, but I digress.
Right. No.
Hopefully they're using a multi-checkbox, and then they can include both of those options.
Right. Well, luckily I get to have some input there. So
good.
See to that.
Do you agree with my assessment?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Good. Or else I'm being
here. Right. Well, I think we got to be out of here anyways. Thanks so much, man. It's always great talking to you. And
you too, man. Have a great time of the show.
Rest of your World Certification Week.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
Happy birthday. How did I not say happy birthday from yesterday?
You too. Mine was yesterday and yours is tomorrow, right?
Yep. Special birthday edition of Let's Build tomorrow.
Aries gang.
All right, man. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye.